because I have to. Hello, 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 and welcome, welcome, welcome to the Alphabet Game. I'm Janine McJanet, your friendly neighborhood RTT therapist, empowerment and play coach, and hypnotherapist. Super stoked to be here with you today with my awesome friend, Dr. Brenda, for conversation that's all about the letter N. So let's dive into some cool and inspiring stuff, shall we? Buckle up because it's going to be a blast. Over to you, Dr. Brenda.
Okay, yeah. Hey there, I'm Dr. Brenda, and coming at you today from Colorado. I've switched time zones, I've switched states. Yeah, 5 states in 2 days or 3 days it was. So now settled in Colorado for the whole month of June. I'm at Colorado Monument. It's this incredible place that I've never really even heard of. I've never been here before. So taking long hikes and really enjoying my stay here. Woo!
Hey, Colorado. My sis lives in Colorado. It's nice. I love it there. It reminds me of the Yukon a bit just because of the Rockies.
Yeah, I mean it's a very diverse state, so it's it's just been gorgeous. Great campground, great scene. So yeah, back into summer mode, which for me means hiking big time. So
Yeah.
took a really long hike yesterday. It was great.
Yeah.
N is for, start us off, Janine.
Well, this has been such fun, this experience. You know, after every call that we do, I think, oh, that would have been a good idea to talk about this or to share a conversation in that. But what really came to me first, and I think that you and I really have a bond over, is nature. It's what fills my soul. It's what fills my tank. And I've got it. I'm looking around it. I'm in it. Dr. Brenda hikes it, and we just love it. And just the power of being in nature and how it can shift your mindset, how it can shift those neurons in your brain from stopping going round and round. Life is terrible. Got so much going on. Those negative things, negative, towards something that is like, oh, right, the picture. I'm much smaller. My issues, you know, that book from, I can't even remember his name. Don't sweat the small shit, right? You step outside in nature and all of a sudden, all that shit is small and you're like, whew. So nature, I know it's I write about it. I write poetry about it. I live in it. I'm looking at leaves grow like the Yukon. They fall off in the fall, and we've got these evergreens, which is great. We call them pecker poles because they aren't huge trees because we're quite high and dry, right? So when the leaves start to come, then especially the aspen and the poplars, they just twinkle in the sun, and you can hear the wind. You can hear the wind through nature. So yeah, I've been listening to nature in my hot tub out at the cabin because summer too is a time for experience and adventure.
You know, yeah, I find nature. So yesterday, I mean, I took a long hike, and this happens quite a bit on my hikes where I'll think of something that happened in the past that I still feel a little bit resentful about, or that's, not been not the best thing. And walking and hiking, I begin to process it and let it go in the past. Now it will come up, but it's like, and then my best ideas come from out walking. I'm hiking around. I'm like, oh yeah, I want to do that. Don't forget when you get back to the RV. Don't forget to do that.
Yeah.
So but it is the senses. So yesterday when I was out hiking, there was a big thunder boom. It's like you don't want to be out there when it's storming. And I could feel it like in my throat. You're just hiking and boom! And it vibrates through your entire being. And it scared the crap out of me. And I started going as fast as I could to get off the trail. But everything is alive. And for me, it's not the sight as much as the sound. So I do those 60 seconds, 1 minute of relaxation, and it's the sounds, the sound of the water trickle, the sound of the birds, the crickets, the tree frogs, the wind. that's where I could just, it is a sound bath.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And that's what I can, especially when it's removed from, you know, overhead jets and freeway traffic, when I get into those places where it is just nature,
Mm.
it heals me.
It's healing.
It is. Yeah.
It's my spirituality. It's our spirituality. It's our religion. It's where we get nourished from, right?
Oh
And
yeah, it is. And that's, you know, I always go into a bit of a funk in the wintertime. I don't like the cold, and I'm less active and
yeah,
focus more on my business. And it's like, you know, summertime is here, and you have a very short summer, but summertime is here, and it's like, ah, yeah, outside almost every day, outside.
yeah.
And that's, you know, I'm going to be moving into this RV park in Southern California now. I've got a date, so mid-October, and you know, I'm going to have nice outdoor space. Weather's
Woohoo.
decent. I could spend all day outside.
And I'm going to come and
Absolutely.
visit you
Yes, you have
in the
to.
dark, cold winter. I'm going to see your family. But speaking of the wind, I've been and your senses, so it's really an exploratory, sensual, and sensory experience when we're in nature. Um, and I've been sitting in the hot tub in my mornings out at the cabin, and all the birds are coming alive, right? Because we go from black to white up here, and the ravens are doing their mating thing now, and they're just like going off. And I'm just listening to them and watching them. And I talk to ravens a little bit because I can do a raven sound. They've got like over 100 different sounds. They're very smart. So I was playing with that. But when they stopped, I just listen, and that's meditative time. It's really nourishing, right? To be able to just be, and the whole thing about mindfulness that we talked last time. And I heard the wind, but then I thought, you don't really hear the wind. You hear the wind through other things, and we hear the wind through nature. We hear the wind through the leaves. We hear the wind through the sound of the waves on the lake here. We hear it through, whistling past our ears. And so I did jump out and wrote a little quick poem, just started it about the wind, which is kind of cool because we just talked about the wind. The wind has a voice, so silent, yet so pure. You can't hear it all the time, but when you do, you're absolutely sure. It speaks through the trees, the waves, and your hair. You can't see it, but you know that it's there. How's that like ourselves, sometimes shouting for attention, if we could send our message out without guilt, blame, or resentment? And that's all I have for now because I only just started it, but we'll get back to it
Wow. Wow.
because it's there.
Without guilt, blame, or resentment. Yeah.
Yeah, because the wind can be angry. Mother Nature can be angry. And it can be, you can hear it and like, oh, when she's angry, it's just like you said, the big boom. I love that. I love it because I don't see it much. I love lightning and thunder. I will go and stand out and I've surfed down when I lived in Sydney. I've surfed down the roads because it was just like so wild and thunder. Whew, I love it. Like I'm getting goosebumps now. There's nothing like a good bolt of
So I
lightning.
don't have to give you my safety speech, do I?
Don't stand with a fork in your
I say, yeah, I've got metal hiking
yeah.
poles, trekking poles, and I'm like, okay, these things are gonna get. I'm out there, and if lightning's getting close, those trekking poles are gonna get hidden somewhere. I'm not
Yeah,
walking with lightning rods.
yeah, no, no, and
Yeah,
it's brutal down there. We're very dry up here, but that's nature and how nourishing it is to us. There's a whole sort of conversation out there about the difference and the similarities between nature and nurture. What do you have to say about that?
nature and nurture,
Nature versus nurture.
nature versus nurture. You're gonna have to explain a little more.
Oh, no. Just just how nurturing, how can you be nurtured yourself? What is nurturing to you? And I mean,
Ah, okay, self nurture.
mm,
Yeah, yeah. We've known each other now for quite a while, and I've gone through difficult times. You've gone through difficult times, and the answer is always the same for both of us. Get your ass outside,
Yeah.
and it really is that simple.
Yeah.
And it helps me make decisions, but it is about taking care of myself. Plus, even physically, to be out hiking helps me with my weight, helps me with my muscle tone, helps me stay as young as I can.
Yeah. Well, it's nourishing. So I think
But
it's like, because I know that
so,
not all people get turned on by nature as much as we may do, because
you
we're
know,
lucky.
that's a curiosity to me because I feel like it's everybody's answer. I know people are afraid of nature. People are afraid to go out there. I mean, hiking, I've seen a lot of solo women hikers and more of us. Um, but there's, especially if you grow up in the city with all that noise, folks are like, oh my God, it's too quiet. It's too silent. Where are the sirens?
Yeah.
And I mean, I've lived in big cities and, um, I've dealt with the noise and I would have to drive out periodically way out just to ground myself again. So I don't get how, like, if if you soak yourself in nature, really allow yourself to live within it, not against it, it's a life-changing experience.
It's soothing, it's
So
nourishing.
I don't know what, there is no substitute for me. There
Mhm.
is no substitute.
Well, I think
So
it's in Japan, they have it as a mandatory form of mental health medication is to go out in nature
yeah,
and have a nature bath. But again, like it's not everybody's cup of tea. And for those that live in the city, and I did too, it was just like, you could see from my balcony up on the 16th floor, we could see, oh, there's some green stuff. There's a park over there. There's a park over there, but it was just concrete and concrete. There's traffic in the sky. Everybody's moving up and living up. The population is growing. How can you get connected to nature? I think is really what we're trying to say is get out of your mind, get out of your shitstorm, get out of the small shit and step out and take a look at the big picture. Because that's where you can find yourself. That's where you can do the grounding. You can do anything out there because it allows you, if you give yourself permission,
you know,
it allows you to, what, well, you said no before, I can't remember what I was going to say now. It allows you to just get in touch with yourself and your thoughts and to come back home. That's what I was going to say.
yeah, and every place I've lived, there is always an opportunity to be outside, whether I've chosen apartment buildings that were relatively close to a green space, so I could come home from work and walk in the green space. I could drive 15 minutes and hike up the mountain. There have always been opportunities
Yeah.
to get out and explore some of that wherever I've been. But it does, I remember because I'm out west, so there's a lot of dark sky parks, designated dark skies.
What does
So
that mean?
these are designated areas where, so even I've been asked in Maine, like, okay, don't put your lights on by the RV. Don't put my lights on
Oh, I see.
because of the stars. People come to these places to see stars because in the city, you don't see stars.
Light pollution.
So it is, you're right, right. So just the magic of, I mean, being in a night sky that is filled with all of these
Yeah.
glistening stars. I mean, that really puts things in perspective too of how we are just this tiny little dot in the universe.
Northern lights.
Oh
Have,
man.
you've seen them?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not, I mean, growing up in Wisconsin, occasionally we'd get, I remember driving home late one night without the headlights. It was so light outside and it was so wild.
Yeah.
Now nothing I mean, you shared photos of Northern Lights there, and that is,
Phenomenal. I think that there's no other
yeah,
word
yeah.
for it. It's just like, it doesn't matter if it's -30 or -40 here, which is the same Celsius and Fahrenheit. That's where they meet, is -40. To go out just bundled up and freezing and just look up in awe. And again, that is the most powerful, inspiring, nourishing, nutritious way. It feeds your soul and it just makes you feel so little, petite and small. And you're like, this world is so big. Oh, it's so cool. So,
There's an energy out there too.
yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like when I'm by the waterfalls, I just that I can feel energy just coming into my body. If you're under, you know, those, if you're the Northern Lights too, I could, with those different colors, it shifts your energy.
It it gives you energy, right?
Yeah,
It
yeah,
gives you
yeah.
energy.
Versus so many things that we do that take away our energy, you
Which is
know?
a good sort of segue into what we've been talking about, is the power of nature externally and how it can give us energy. But how can we bring that inside of us and have that natural way inside of us and exploiting that so that we can find that harmony with it? Like if we're busy, if we're too busy, if we're burned out, if we're all this stuff is going on, how can we bring nature to ourselves, inside of ourselves, without having to spend half an hour or an hour hiking or walking, because not everyone has that time? How can we find that that nourishing, self-nourishing place inside of us? That's where I think the real beauty is.
You're talking my speech.
Okay.
So I'm in I'm working on, got two talks. One is on burnout, and it's called, I've renamed it again, Reignite Your Fire.
Mhm.
But it is about those, it's the goal of the goal of the speech is to give people to think about. And I've got a workshop, and the goal of that is to create what I call a life work plan, so that you can incorporate those moments of joy, those moments of relaxation into your everyday life. That's partly like why I started those minute-long videos, because I used to be so busy I couldn't take a break. You know, 15 minutes, forget it.
Yeah.
You'd crash in the afternoon, you're so exhausted. Your lunchtime, oftentimes I'm grabbing something, eating in the office and doing this. I didn't take the time. I should have. I didn't take the time to build in those rejuvenation moments.
Mhm.
And whether it was even just a walk around the building or the office, there are ways to do this, but it's making your life the priority over work, and making the work fit into your life, not your life fit into work.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And that whole idea of work-life balance, I don't even use the word balance anymore. It's all
no, I
about
don't either.
harmony, right? It's a harmony between who we are and what we want, but we have to know what we want. So how can we grab that, what nature gives us outside, and how can we grab it inside quickly? Like, how can we just stop, just pause, and even taking breaths, deep, long, slow breaths, and go, okay, bring me back here to the moment, instead of rushing around about what we need to do or thinking about what we could have done better. This is life, this is busyness. How can we incorporate it? We have to know, we have to have those tools around us. What can we do that will help us at any given time, whether it's in a relationship struggle, whether it's at work, whether it's just overdoing. What can you do? Like, this is the passion piece. Like, find out what nature is inside of you that you can draw upon, that you can feel that same sense of beauty and joy and adventure without having to physically go there. So it's an inside
Yeah,
job.
yeah. So, I mean, even at the beginning, the way I've got my speech schemed out, I asked people to pull up their phones, take a look at what's the last photo you took, that made you smile, that made you happy. I mean,
Let's do that right now.
let's do it and see what happens. That
Well,
won't be hard for me to do.
well, the last photo is the last photo.
Well, I just have, you see, that's funny. Because I was downloading stuff, and this is what I've got.
Pets, like the power of pets is incredible. I can't wait till we get to pee.
Yeah. I know. So it's funny because I mean, this isn't even, but when you think about your photos, what are you taking photos of that bring back memories and bring back smiles, and how can you put a little bit of that into your work day?
Yeah.
And a lot of us, it is pets or it's family, it's vacations. I would guess almost everyone out there, if you brought up your photos, if you're working,
yeah,
is there a work photo in there?
Hang on, I can remember.
There's not a work photo in there.
It's a mindset too, though, because when I was still working for the government, you know what I did and I would do is on my way to work, I would create, because I didn't have the creative juices that I needed in my government job. So I remember going to work one day, pouring a cup of tea, and I was thinking of songs because I like to write poetry and songs. And so I got my phone out and I'm there. I was always there early. And I made a little song and I'm walking around with my tea and my computer and the phone, making fun of it all. And I laughed a lot about that. I mean, of course, I didn't do that all day, but when you start to find the joy and stuff that you don't like, it's a real invitation that you need to shift in a sense, still enjoy what you're doing. And it can be it can be a nuisance sometimes, right? It's because we're like, I don't know where I want to be, but I like what you said, that I love that exercise, looking at our phone to find pictures.
Yeah, and that's why I don't use the word balance, and I don't call it harmony either. I just call it life, work, well-being.
Yeah.
Because I don't think harmony quite captures it either. There's not many people who would use that word to describe their work life. But hey, we're getting a little off topic.
No, I want to say something just
you got
to that.
An N word?
No, but just because the harmony is for me, and that's okay. We don't agree sometimes, and this is what makes it exciting. But it is, the well-being is part of harmony. Whatever you can, like whatever area, all the areas in your life, relationships, career, spirituality, social, it doesn't have to be that balance like we talk about. It's not like a teeter-totter or a circle. What works for me is harmony for me, and well-being, when I might be low on one and high on another, if it works for me, that is well-being for me. That is my wellness. That is my harmony. So that's where I like to bring it. And I use harmony a lot. I believe that everybody has a unique harmony that they're striving for, and they have to find it.
I talk more about coherence, where everything is just kind of syncing up together. And to me, the key to coherence is values. So like when I'm working for an organization that is a toxic organization who speaks one thing but does another thing, and doesn't value my work, but I'm beginning to not value what that organization is about, that to me is a huge warning sign. It's don't ask me to corrupt my values. I mean, I have very strong beliefs in honesty, and allowing people to be who they are. However, we're all individuals, and it's like, I won't compromise on my values. And so sometimes when you get that mismatch, that's when you're clashing. But,
and I like how you just said, just allowing people to be who they are, which brings us back to, being natural and allowing ourselves to be natural, authentic, and genuine, taking off the masks. Hang on. I want to share with you. We have to take off the mask sometimes.
I don't even want to. Why do you have that in
my Zen? Isn't it cool? I don't know. I did some workshops before about taking off the mask, and I thought,
okay.
the
No,
peace.
I mean, you're right. And a lot of people, I think, are afraid to take off the mask because they don't know who they are underneath.
Exactly. And what is the natural you? What is the natural you? And how can we stand up for what we stand for? We have to do that work. And a lot of people here in our communities have done some of the work and are starting to do that soul excavation and dig out, this is who I am. This is what I want. This is my role. This is my goal. But really, it's like, how can we be who we are all the time? It's really friggin' hard. It's really friggin' hard, especially for women and mothers,
Yeah, yeah,
people pleasers who've always strived to make sure everyone else is comfortable in their lives and putting ourselves last. So
yeah. I mean, I gotta tell you, an RV campground is my perfect setting because we're all dressed in t-shirts and shorts.
yeah,
You know, maybe we take a shower when the weather's good and when we need to, but we're not, there's not fakery
yeah,
here. I'm natural. Everybody around here is natural. People are enjoying nature. And then I go into someplace else and it's like, oh yeah, I'm not dressed right. My hair's not right. I don't have any makeup on. And it's like, it's such a contrast,
yeah.
and the messages that women are given about, I mean, we're judged. I mean, you have the vice president of the US who gives this fantastic speech and she's critiqued on the shoes that she wore. It's just such a double standard for women. But it does.
Societal expectations.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Wow, this has been a really nifty and nice conversation. And
Yeah.
the
Do you
things that
do you have one more? Do you have another N word that you'd like to finish
I'm
this
going to
off
throw this,
on?
I'm going to throw this here right at the end.
Do I need a
Because
dictionary?
narcissism.
Oh,
And that's a big word. It deserves a whole conversation. But it's something I'm sure that all of us in our lives at one time or another have encountered, either in the workplace or at home. And perhaps some of us have some of those narcissistic traits because it's all about, putting ourselves first over and above. So it's really I'm doing a lot of work with people pleasing and with setting boundaries and everything I'm doing is coming together. All of these different anxiety, stress, depression, narcissistic behavior, all of it is there. And it's really about awareness. We go right back to the beginning of the alphabet, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I was trying to come up with a word. It finally popped into my head. Gaslighting,
Mm-hmm.
where you know,
Yeah.
where you begin to question your own words, your own actions,
Yeah.
because your narcissistic partner switches everything up on you and you don't know what's up and what's down.
Yeah.
And I mean, to me, having worked in the area of domestic violence, it comes back. Domestic violence isn't about violence, it's about control. And that manipulation that accompanies narcissism, it is all about control.
Yeah. And control. I was listening to an Audible book because it's the root of much evil in our society, of most of the evil, and it is also the biggest illusion of anything that we can have is control, even over our own outcome, because we don't know what's going to come up. We really don't know. So yeah, the gaslighting is huge, and this is where setting boundaries, and this is where is doing the work and understanding what your values are and standing up for yourself and taking off your mask and having some vulnerable pain, but it's all in the spirit of evolving and growth.
Well, and you've got to have people on your side. I mean, I've always tried to do things on my own, but surround yourself with the positive people. I mean, that's one thing that as I've gotten older, I just don't have the time. Not willing to give up my time
Yeah.
to hang out with someone who is just bringing me down and bringing me down into a path that doesn't feel right. It's just not going to happen in my life.
Jim Rohn says that we are the average of the 5 people that we
Yeah,
hang around with
yeah,
the most. And I love that. And sometimes you can't not hang around with your kids. So I tend to rule them out for now, but who are you
Yeah,
hanging
yeah,
around with the most? And if you want to make $1 million, or if you want to be a writer, or if you want to be a poet or whatever, who are you hanging around with? Are you hanging around with people who drink and party all the time? Because
right.
that's gonna seep into you. So it's
Yeah,
about finding the support and breaking out of that cage, that cage of complacency. And that's really taking the mask off. Like, and it always comes down to the same question: what do you really, really want to do or to be in your life?
yeah, and that's I'm all about prioritizing and simplifying.
Mhm.
And we are multitaskers. We are jumping into one thing after another, not finishing anything, partly because we don't know what our priorities are. We can't prioritize 100 things. That's not a priority list.
Yeah.
And so when you begin to really think about what's important to you, and I mean, this is what I did when my life was
Yeah.
sitting
Same.
at the dining room table, I was miserable. And I'm like, well, what's really important to me? Being in nature and traveling and meeting people. And how can I accomplish that? I can accomplish that by trading in this house that no longer serves me to living in an RV life. And I was thinking about this yesterday hiking. I'm into year number 4. Regardless of what's ever going on financially, these have been the best 3+ years of my entire life.
Beautiful.
And it's about it, we don't have control, but we can create our own future. And I'm creating my own future. You're
Yeah.
creating your own future rather than letting things happen to us.
Yeah. It's so short. Life is really so short. And I see children and I see adults that are stuck, and they still have the cage around them. And coming from that people pleaser stance again, where innately I want to help, I want to rescue, I want to solve, I want to fix. I'm stepping back and just watching and observing. I mean, I can only really help myself, and I can be that sort of demonstrator for my family and my friends. But it's very interesting, how much energy, coming back to the storm, we can give out and not pay attention to ourselves. So how can we really nourish ourselves? And that's what I want to leave my bit on, is how can you nourish yourself? What can you do for nutrition? I just don't mean food, but what will feed your soul so that you can feel and do and be in a place where you have that joy. And that's it from Janine.
Yeah, I can't top that. I mean, my advice is always get out there in nature and do something, and think about the way you think about risks, because it is riskier very often to do nothing.
Mhm.
You get comfortable, you can predict pretty much what's going to go on tomorrow. That doesn't mean you're going to be happy. It is riskier to do nothing than to take a little chance
Yeah.
and go after the life that you want.
See, we've been conditioned. I know we've been conditioned to play it safe, to keep in the box, just to stay there. And even your mom, my mom, I know did. And I started doing this for many years. Okay, kids, if you're going out alone, be careful, be safe. And now when I say that, because it's still automatically sort of programmed in my brain, I say, okay, keep safe and take risks. And I set that on the end, take some good risks. And we need to engage. We need our communities to step up and stand up and freaking take more risks, and the people in our lives, just to
Yeah, yeah.
be more soulful.
Okay, so what's coming up for you, Janine? I know you've got a fantastic vacation coming up.
I've got an adventure coming up. I'm not going to tell you now, but okay, I'm going to an island to do kayaking, down on the West Coast. And that's going to be pretty good. So I'm giving myself permission to pause, to just hold off. I'm doing my therapy sessions and my coaching. I've got a couple of cool little programs, that I integrate my RTT and hypnotherapy in with the coaching. And I think it's bloody amazing. So do the women that I've worked with. But if you're interested, just let me know. Let's have a conversation. What about you?
Excellent, excellent. Well, I'm headed into Denver area on Monday, be there for a couple of weeks before sliding up into the northern Midwest. And I'm really excited because my website, my new website, drbrendaU.com, is fully functional. It's up and ready. I'm ready to take business. I'm working on my speeches and setting up the business and making contacts. If anybody out there knows of any folks who are interested in having me come in and speak about burnout, or I've got this fun thing on financial wellness, those two things, let me know, because I'm ready to get my message out there, folks. I'm so ready.
Well, you're getting it out. You're getting it out, but you're ready to boom, just like that lightning and thunderbolt.
Absolutely.
Because you love taking risks more than anyone I know. And so what a great mentor. Okay, thank you. What a great conversation. We're not going to be here. We're going to have a little break and come in on July the 7th next time. Enjoy your summer. And if you have any words that start with O or beyond, let us know so that we can add them into this, because this is what life is, just shooting the shit from the hip and having fun.
All right. See y'all. Thanks, Janine.
Y'all.
Have
Bye.
fun.